Welcome to Accounting High.
You should have a budget for being uncomfortable. I talked to so many accountants and business owners. They're like, I can't believe you're going to pay $70 an hour for a trainer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? How much money did you spend on your last vacation? Okay. You'll spend all this money for comfort. If you want to be younger, you got to aggressively pursue discomfort. And anything you do to get better, you got to make yourself uncomfortable.
Classes in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, classes in session, it's time for shoperations at accounting. Hi, kids, hybrid teams for Pete's sake. I'm trying to manage through screens, but I can't figure out which Zoom window's my next meeting. Well, since 2012, my firm's been in the cloud. Join us as we go deep. I'll try not to run it to the ground. We're sharing profit and loss and managing back office. The tax staff just quit, tried to hire on LinkedIn, no luck. And scope creep team count cash, automate tax, compliance transactions, ID and bottlenecks. Come on, ops. Scotty, wait a minute. It's my firm, dog. I know, and I said you could run it however you want.
Introducing the star of our show,
Scotty and Mike Melinger.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Welcome, students. Classes in session. I was going to say Scotty and Eminem because that is your initials too. So
For that.
yeah, dope. All right. Well, students, we've got with us one of the all-stars of the accounting varsity team. You're going to be the coach of our varsity team eventually. Our students, we've got a lot to learn. We're going to talk about how you're running a very fit, healthy lifestyle along with running a very fit, healthy firm over there in Greenville, South Carolina. Us both being Southern boys or from the South, but we met up in the Chicago Bridging the Gap a couple weeks ago.
Also, I did meet you in December. Great hotel, but it was
Four Seasons in
the Four Seasons in Orlando.
It was New Money Summit.
The New Money Summit, yes.
Western CPE Conference. All right, that's right. So we met at a couple conferences recently. It's great to see you out and about. I wanted to have you on here because you got a lot to teach our students here. You're running very successful firm down there, Greenville, South Carolina, a little bit over $3 million, right? You've got a good split of your team based is in outsourced and here in the U.S., but about 21 full-time people working for you. Before we start going deep into the details of the firm, you're a CPA, you're also a CTC, right? You're a certified tax coach.
Yes, sir.
Tell our students how you got into this, how you ended up becoming an accountant, how long you've been doing it.
The truth is, I originally became an accountant because I wanted to be an FBI agent. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I met an FBI agent, and he said I had the only business degree I could get was in accounting. And so I ended up going the accounting route at a small school in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I met my wife, and then basically decided to become a CPA because my professor convinced me that the CPA was the great equalizer of all accounting schools, that no one would ever ask you any questions if you passed the CPA exam on the first sitting. So I said, well, I'll do that. I passed the CPA exam, got hired with Deloitte Touche, was really the square peg in the round hole at Deloitte Touche because on the audit, I would always find stuff. I would find stuff and be like, hey, I got exceptions and stuff. And I didn't know the code of conduct was not to find stuff.
You were looking for things and you were finding things too.
So they politely put me on one of their worst clients ever to work with, was a company called Insignia, where I literally worked 100 hours a week.
Wow.
To do public accounting reporting for partnerships. It was funny because it was like a 6-week busy season, and then there was absolutely nothing to do. So, and this is back in the old days. You couldn't get away with this nowadays. So some of us would take longer lunches, and some of us would come in late because, we had nothing to do, literally nothing to do. And they called us all into a meeting, and they said, hey, we know there's nothing to do, but it's still, you got to be here at 9. You don't leave at 5, and you don't take for an hour for lunch. And if you don't like it, you get another job. So I got a job as a controller. And what was weird, this is how stupid corporate America was. I put my notice in. They said, well, we don't let people work notices. We're just going to pay you for it. And I was like, let me get this right.
Wait.
But anyway, so long story short, my wife, I couldn't really keep a job. So my wife told me to start my own practice. And I started my own practice out of my house. Had several variations of partnerships. We did the typical CPA thing where we took everyone as a client, did everything for everyone. And around 2005, I sold my CPA firm to a partner, sold out to a partner, thinking I'd made a lot of money in real estate, a couple $1 million in real estate, was thinking I'll just do a little litigation work on the side. I'll do my real estate stuff. And this was, of course, 2006 and 7. And of course, the real estate market did this. So
Yeah.
then
There's a downward tank from about that point. Yeah. All right.
So fast forward, non-compete was 5 years. While doing litigation work, I had a knack for helping people with taxes and finding issues on taxes and saving people. So I picked up a few clients, decided I was going to, go back into the CPA firm because 2011, I had pretty much 3 relationships that were accounting for 80% of our revenue. Went to a service called Strategic Coach, and Strategic Coach convinced me not to open another CPA firm that just took everyone. He taught really 5 powerful principles.
So this was before 2010, and this was like your second go at running a firm?
In 2011 is technically when my non-compete ended. And I started the firm, and I went to Strategic Coach. And Strategic Coach, I'd love, we could do a whole podcast just on the 5 principles he teaches entrepreneurs, right? Which is a focus on vision, multiplied progress. The second one is focus on delegation, multiply income. The third one, which is the most powerful one, if you were to ask why our business has done so well or has grown pretty well, is focus on relationship, multiply opportunity. The fourth thing, which every CPA screws up, well, not everyone, there's some people that do it well, not me, focus on free time, multiplied productivity. And then the fifth one was forget about discipline, focus on habits. And the sixth one is focus on strengths, delegate weaknesses. That's his little marketing CD that he teaches people with those 6 things. And really, I talk to clients all the time about those are the 6. If you can become a black belt in those 6 things, you will have a great business, right? If you can really focus on vision, most of us don't realize it, but we have the practice that we dreamed about. And the reason the practice sometimes sucks and we're like, what the hell am I doing? Is because we never recasted the vision, right? So you always got to put, and then the other thing is delegation. I would say I'm a yellow belt at delegation, but I've delegated a lot, but
You've gotten better at it.
Yeah. I mean, I have an executive assistant. I have a personal assistant. We have a lady at our house that comes help my wife with stuff because my wife works in the business. So we're good at delegating, but we can be so much better because you really want to just delegate all the stuff that you're not good at and focus on that. But
Buy Back Your Time. Have you read that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Buy Back Your Time. I love that book.
Dan Martell.
That's one of those books you should read. I probably need to go back and read it again.
The way you're describing everything is essentially the message from the book, and you're living that. And that's how you started the business. You went and found the strategic. So what was it? Strategic Coach?
Dan Sullivan. Strategic Coach. It's a great program for entrepreneurs. He's coached some of the top entrepreneurs. Like Geno Wickman, I noticed you mentioned the book Traction. He was one of Dan Sullivan's students. And Geno, what Dan tries to teach you is make your competitors your customers. And so Geno was a business consultant. Now, a lot of business consultants became his customer, right? So that was Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach, create processes and stuff. So Dan Sullivan coached, he's coached all time. I'm one of the tiny people he coached, right?
Sure.
But
it really helped you. So this was
life-changing.
Yeah, life-changing. You started a new type of firm, and you're running it like a business. You're running it differently than you did previously, or as you may have, if you were looking within the accounting profession. What kind of success did you have early on? How did that look?
Well, the biggest thing is just, like you said, is growing the relationships with your clients. So, and figuring out your ideal client, and then trying to get into their world and help them. And by helping them, how do you grow? So at the time, to give you an idea, he teaches you should have your dream check and your minimum check. What is the minimum check for someone to do business with your firm? What is the minimum check that they will actually get your attention at? You can have staff dealing with smaller checks, but you can't deal with those, right? You got to focus on the bigger check.
Talking about the dollar amounts of a check.
Yeah, then you have to have the dream check. And I just realized this. I wrote down a dream check back when I started Strategic Coach of $250. And this is why you got to recast the vision. $250,000 a year. I want a client to pay us $250,000 a year. And we've had we have a current client that pays us $300,000 a year, right? I just realized now, where do I got to go? I got to go back and
Recast it.
recast the vision.
So you cast your line about as far out as you can cast it. And then once you get there, then you got to cast it again.
When I would tell other firms, okay, I'm an old guy and I see a lot of young firms doing a lot of great things. So I always want to be humble. But the thing that really is sort of taking us to different levels was getting coaching by different people and signing up for the coaching, okay? For example, when we were about $600,000 in revenue, maybe we were less than 600, we were probably like 400. I joined Rootworks. And Rootworks, I was trying to run my business on QuickBooks. And they were pushing Thomson Reuters. They talked me into going to Office Tools to work, to manage the process. That probably took us from 400 to about 800.
You were seeking help in the areas that you knew other people knew better. And they knew of ways and systems that you could just adopt.
Exactly. Then we went from Rootworks. One of the critical things we did is I joined a program, Certified Tax Coach. Okay. And the one thing, I love Dominique. She really had a positive impact on my practice. From
Dominique
Molina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dominique Molina.
I'm still a certified tax coach. She was the first one that taught us, hey, you should sell a tax maintenance package. And by selling the tax maintenance package.
Or you're going beyond just doing the compliance and you're trying to, you're offering more value and you're adding more value for the clients, but you're also definitely increasing your dollar per client.
So she got us to the one, I would say 1.4. And then I signed up for Rick Solomon.
She got you up to where? About 1.4 million? You went from 600,000 to about 1.4. Did you find that you hit any ceilings along the way there, or was there anything that you had to break through, or anything that happened?
The biggest thing we had to do is we had to hire a high-level tax manager. Really, that was the first thing. We did use traction in our business when we were about 600. We started with traction and so we had some goals and some rocks, and one of those was to hire a high level to get me out of the tax process. And that was a really big step in the business, was not having to do with the day-to-day tax operation. To be brutally honest with you, we're struggling a little right there with that now, because one of those things we did wrong was really enforcing the culture. So me and the high-level tax manager parted ways last year.
So you made the change to help get you there.
CPAs, we tend to boo-hoo core values. We tend to say, oh, we really don't need core values. We need great people. No, you really have to have your core values. You got to live them. You got to breathe them. And your core values create your culture. And culture is what's going to long-term is going to make your business last longer and longer. So right now, if you would ask me what the biggest thing I'm working on is the culture of the business.
Yeah.
We've got T-shirts with our core values. We talk to our employees about core values. We do a weekly lunch and learn where we pay lunch. We learn our mindset. We do stuff on ideal calendar, on different things like that. I'm trying to sort of structure everyone's day in such a way where you can be efficient. You can work 40 hours a week and you can get all your work done. And that's one thing that I'm proud of our firm is we really do have a balanced life. Here's the truth about us accountants. We tend to overcomplicate stuff.
Do we?
Yeah, no, trust me. I mean, so one of the biggest things what we're doing right now is we're bringing on new project management software that we're gonna go with Monday. We had to decide between Monday and ClickUp. Monday they had a value-added reseller that works for a lot of CPA firms, so that was the difference. Because one of the things Dan Sullivan will ask you, a powerful question you should always ask yourself is who, not how, right? And so when you think about implementing a new project management system, I was like, how am I going to do this now? Who's going to do this for me? And how am I going to pay them to do that? So, and that's going to give us a lot of transparency, we believe. But we also, the biggest thing what we're doing to make our tax work less cumbersome, we figured out about 70% of a business tax return could be done by our bookkeeping and our accounting staff. We've moved all that work over to accounting because what I'm seeing in the job market, it's easier to hire an accountant than it is a tax accountant right now. The other thing we've decided to do is to train our tax people in-house. So we've got a young guy, really bright guy. I've hired an accountant to replace him and the accounting department moved him over. He's only got about 1.5 years experience, but super sharp with the technology. Hey, we're just going to train our own tax people. That's, I think, the best way to do it.
So let's talk about that technology adoption as you've grown the firm too, because when you started about 2010, that was pre-cloud. 2011, that was pre-cloud. What kind of software were you using?
QuickBooks Desktop, exclusively QuickBooks. In fact, I bought QuickBooks. QuickBooks Online was out, and I was one of those guys who was like, I'll never go to QuickBooks Online. And then we were using, when we started the firm, we were using Drake. We went to Lacerte when we went to Office Tools. And then we're using UltraTax now, which is the Thomson Reuters product. And my tax team loves it. Now, I don't like Thomson Reuters.
We've been on it for a while. It's probably one of the most robust that I've ever used when it comes to robust
How do you
tax
do that
products.
with cloud? Are you using
We're using Macs too. So without getting too technical for our students, we have to remote in. There's an app that we have to use to remote into a virtual PC just so we can use it in that environment now. And it was something else. It was Citrix before that. That's only if you're using a Mac. If you're on a PC, is there a lot of that happening at your firm?
With the Thomson Reuters, we're still using a terminal server.
Okay.
The Citrix. I think it's got a Citrix. They're actually, like, the people in the Philippines are working on a server close to the Philippines.
Okay.
I mean, there's some, but we use our own IT company to do it. We looked at really hard at the Rightworks offering, which is really secure. They provide great security, but it's not truly a cloud environment. My dream is one day we'll be in a true cloud environment with our tax software.
For somebody like you, how did you find out about a lot of the new stuff?
Well, we went all in. We went to a Rootworks conference, and he was telling us about whether you like QuickBooks Online or you hate it. It's the way of the future. They're putting all the money in, so forth. There's, like 1 million clients going on a year, so you just need to sign up. And so we went all in on QuickBooks Online. We went out, Bill.com. Rootworks had a really good model for outsourcing the accounting. And that's really been a big push in the revenue side. Yeah,
Okay, so you're offering bill pay for clients. Was that something that you weren't doing before?
No.
Okay. So a whole new revenue stream for you. And did you find that was growing faster than just tax?
I think it might have overtaken our tax and revenue. I haven't looked at it recently, but outsourced accounting and outsourced CFO services is probably going to surpass our tax revenue this year. And
How about
the reason is, and I don't know who said this, it might have been Jason Staats. What you're doing is you're selling, I guess, a non-FTE. Hey, instead of hiring someone, we could do this.
Doing the work of a person, and you can equate it to that. So that's why you have these larger contracts too. This wasn't because you were doing tax that these people are paying you $300,000.
No, a lot of that's outsourced accounting. About probably 200 of the 3-something is in the accounting realm. And it's the same thing with a lot of clients. Like, we had a client on a $15,000 a year tax plan bill, right, where we're doing S corporation, individual returns, some tax planning, a real estate partnership, targeted like $15,000 a year. We moved them up, outsourcing accounting, a little business advisory work to $100,000. That's where I think, you start doing more and more of those conversions. That's where I think the outsourced accounting, my goal is, I really do believe that we're going to get our systems and our processes down, because I'm more of a salesman than a systems guy. So I've got a business coach that's helping me with the operations right now. We're really getting that down. Then I think we could go from we should be about 3.4, 3.5 this year, which is really going to be slow growth this year because of some turnover and stuff. But really getting our systems and processes that we can go to 8 or 9.
It'll take you there. You'll have the right foundation in place for that.
Yeah, because when you start selling as full-time equivalents and you start selling, like Summit CFO people, an engagement that's $84,000 a year or $100,000 a year, and you're converting clients $15,000 a year to 100, it's a great business because you're still attracting the people in. You bring them in, you do a really good job on the tax planning, you do a really good job on the tax returns, and then you've got a ready client when something goes wrong with the accounting department, which it always does, to sort of move them up.
Right. And you also found, as you said earlier, that it's easier to hire on this side of the firm than it is for the tax anyway.
When you talk to the recruiters out there, it seems like finding a tax manager is much harder nowadays than finding an accounting manager.
Absolutely. I know this from firsthand. A lot harder to find people in tax. So you're growing your firm exponentially through this side of the market, and then you're just still offering tax, right? And you found that your team's capacity swelled up a little bit, or it filled. You had to pay a little bit of overtime, but it didn't kill you.
No,
And the tax isn't growing like crazy anyway. It's not like you're beating down the doors with all these individual returns. You're doing the tax because that's what you built your firm on. That's what you still have to honor. You're still offering it. You're not cutting the tax altogether, but it hasn't been growing.
well, what we're doing with tax too, one thing too, Scotty, is we're looking at some of these more complicated clients and either going to up the fees more or
Let them go.
let them go. And people are like, you're going to let a client go that pays you $50,000 a year? I'm like, yes. And here's why.
You've just freed up your capacity.
That's $50,000 of tax. If I'm able to take that $50,000 of tax and maybe leverage it with 2-to-1 accounting and advisory revenue, that gives me $150,000 of revenue. And here's another thing, what I'm learning from looking at the numbers is the gross profit on the bookkeeping is starting to, it used to be bookkeeping wouldn't make the gross
It was
profit.
a loss. Yeah.
But now what we're finding with the offshore and the automations and the better pricing, that the gross profit on outsourced accounting is getting better than tax, because what's happened in our firm, the hours worked has went down, the cost of the U.S. labor has went up, right? So you might be getting 60% gross profit on tax, right? And you're getting 75, 80% on your bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just this unlimited opportunity out there to do tax work and tax planning. Truth of the matter is, as the frustration to a business owner is, you just can't find the people to do tax, and you got to sell it strategically.
Okay. And how do you sell it strategically?
You got to sell it to clients who need additional services, or like I said, we're experimenting with a little product for smaller businesses, because normally we don't work with small businesses, but this was referred to us. We're doing some bookkeeping, right? A little cost accounting in it, but it's all automatic with Gusto and everything, and the QuickBooks. We've really got the QuickBooks down. Tax planning and tax work, I think we're charging the guy right at $18,000 a year. Okay.
Okay.
But the tax work is so easy. He has a K1, right?
But yeah,
He doesn't even
very
hire.
straightforward.
And a W-2, right? I mean, the thing is, and the corporate return is we're doing the books. So, and then this guy I was telling you, I mean, he's got the books where it's less than an hour a month on books, right? So maybe 2 hours. So, and then we can get that done by our offshore team. That's a little product that I think was going to be, and this guy, he's growing. I mean, he's going to make about $500,000 this year profit. So he's going to benefit from some tax planning, but also we laid it out, the different services we offer, and we priced it, and we say, hey, we got a package over here that's like 800 a month. We got a package over here that's like 2,000 a month, 3,000 a month. And we got this that's 5 to 10. And he went and picked a few services, and it came in at, we didn't do as slick as the Summit guys did, but it came in at that, 1,800 a month. And we'll see how that works. I mean, to see if it's.
Yeah, but you've positioned yourself to set up the thing that's probably the most profitable for you. So you've created a product line for all of your services. It sounds like you've figured most of it out through the help of those that have done it. You've sought coaches and systems and processes all throughout your journey that's elevated your firm, that's gotten you.
I don't have it figured out. I was talking to Jody from the Summit CPA at the last.
Okay, Jody Grunden.
Hey, Jody, I really think you got it all figured out. He's like, Meilinger, I don't have it all figured out. You're getting good results. You got an entrepreneur. The best thing about being a business owner is you're trying to get paid for your research and development. That's all you're doing. You're trying to get paid for your research and development.
I
And
love that.
sometimes, my first outsourced client, I will tell you, I priced this lady with cash flow problems, and I priced her maybe at $700 a month, and we were paying bills. When I looked at the bill, we made $10 an hour. I was paying a lady 20 or she was, this was back before the wage. I was paying someone maybe like $22 an hour. And I literally made $10 an hour in my first outsourced engagement because I was like, hey, I could do it for this much, And
You were trying to help her out.
well, I wasn't trying to help her out. I was thinking, oh man, it can't be that hard. But let me tell you something about cash flow problems. If the accounting takes 5 hours normal, with cash flow, it could take 40. Because, anyway, that taught us, we didn't get paid for that research and development. We didn't make any money. We just did litigation work. So we've learned the hard way how to write an engagement letter and how to price engagements correctly on these litigation work. So we've learned the hard way that you got to sort of say, hey, okay, we're doing a business calculation at $7,500. Here's your deliverable. Boom, we're done. We delivered, we're done. And we'll meet with your attorney and go over it. But that meeting ends the engagement.
You're creating clear boundaries between the engagement and anything.
Well, we
out of
struggle
the
with out
scope.
of scope just like everyone else. Like we priced some outsourced accounting engagements, and then the engagement letter was written perfectly. And I looked at it, and we had like 25 to 30% write down on it. Everything was out of scope. But what was good is one of our strategic initiatives is I hired a salesman, and the salesman, we had a meeting with the client. We did a little advisory meeting for him. But before the advisory meeting, we presented with the new engagement letter, showed him exactly what would be out of scope. And so we think that now that engagement will be 100% realization this year.
When did you hire somebody for sales?
Gosh, maybe 2 months ago, 3 months.
Oh, really? So you waited a long time to hire somebody for sales. You were doing sales up until that point.
Yes, and I sort of, what I've learned from watching this guy is I sort of suck at sales. We did sales call today. I broke our process again, and of course, we struck it.
Of course.
And so now I'm like, hey, no matter what I think, this guy, he's an experienced guy. We worked together at Deloitte Touche. Then he left and was in real estate, and he wanted to get his CPA back. So he's a friend of mine, so I said, hey, I'll pay you this, and if you stay on. But he's been learning the litigation and learning the business advisory. And then I realized that he's pretty good at sales, and so we put him in sales. And so his goal is he's going to systemize our sales. And then he likes the business advisory, the consulting piece. And I said, well, you got to sell enough advisory to stay busy at the advisory piece. And then we'll hire a salesman, but you have to have a system in place for the salesman to follow. And like my son's he's technically going to be a junior in college, but he's a sophomore in his baseball career, so he's got a few years left. But he's worked for us over the summer. But like Eric could be, because Eric's learning the tax plan and stuff, he can get into the sales side of it. Yeah, I don't want to do sales anymore, except maybe to come in at the very end of a big sales call.
You need to close those big deals. So now let's get to the health side of things. You originally found your way into accounting through the Marines. Would it be fair to say that you've been a health nut always?
No,
Okay.
No, I basically, I worked out when I was in the Marine Corps, but the truth is when I went to apply for the FBI, I was probably, so right now I weigh about 180, okay? And I have about, let's say about 31, 32 inch waist, okay? So.
And what's your height?
5'10".
5'10", okay.
Basically. And when I went to the FBI, I was probably 210.
Oh, wow.
And probably about.
So you're in better
38.
shape now than you were then.
Oh yeah, I'm better shape now than I was then. Better physical shape. Basically, here's the deal. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. So I care about images. So when I was going broke in the Great Recession, I could always handle being a wealthy fat guy, but I couldn't handle being a broke fat guy.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, I got to get in shape. So I bought P90X, and I started doing P90X. I got pretty good shape. And then
and what's P90X for our students?
P90X, oh wow. That's how old I am. P90X was the first systemized personal training on video. It was on video or DVD, which people already remember what that is.
Okay.
Now, there's a company called Beachbody. It might have changed its name. And they have all these workout programs, but that was their blockbuster program that sold like 25 million copies. And it was the 90-day program where you would take your picture every 30 days. And what happened was it was actually a bust. I mean, I'm telling too much detail on this, but it was actually a bust until all of a sudden the picture started coming back. Because it stands for, there was a program called P90, which would get people in shape, but P90X stood for P90 Extreme. If you ever you should Google it. The infomercials are like motivational. I could watch those things all day.
You already planted the seed. I'll be looking at it at
But the
some
thing
point.
is you can get it now. I think I'm still a member of this group where you can get the workouts. But I started getting into shape, and I'd have like everyone else. I liked a little too much alcohol. I'd get in shape. So like everyone else, weight is one of those issues with me that I always have to stay on top of. Like right now, believe it or not, I'm probably 6 or 7 pounds since I gained probably 4 or 5 pounds quickly after I left my last phase of 7.5 hard.
7.5 hard. That was what I was going to get to too. So you've been doing some other extreme things to stay in shape. That means that you've allowed yourself the time to do that. We talked about the growth of your practice and you phasing yourself out of a lot of these things and hiring the right people and putting the right systems in place to allow you the free time to work on yourself. And now it sounds like you're in some of the best shape of your life. How old are you?
I'm 56.
56.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best shape of your life, probably.
56. Yeah. And really, I mean, the thing is I'll send you some pictures, but I competed in a bodybuilding contest November, and I got my body fat down to 7%.
7%?
To give everyone context, I never had abs in my life until I was 54.
Wow.
And what got me to kind of shape, there was 2 things. And this is why, one is I try to teach this when I coach people. I do some coaching of people and business owners. I really try to, hey, number one, always remember this, Scotty. Your most important asset is yourself. Okay? The most important asset is yourself. Don't forget that. Because, I could imitate some of like Gary Breka, and I said, Scotty, if I ask you what's more important, your health or your business, you'd probably say, what would you say?
My health?
Yeah, your health. But then I asked you, okay, well, how much revenue did you create in your business? You would know it. What's your cash flow in business? You would know it. How many employees you have? You would know it. I said, okay, Scotty, what's your A1C? You'd be like, I don't know what that is. Or, what's your body fat percent? I don't know what that is. So we know all these statistics about our business, but we think
our financial health.
Yeah, we know our financial health.
Well, we're accountants. Accountants are pretty good at that. We're good at the financial health. Physical health, not so much.
Well, physical health is terrible. But anyway, so your most important asset is yourself. And if I was talking to anyone on this podcast, I would say, don't forget that. It's so easy to forget. Your most important asset is yourself. Second thing, your best investment is your business. Too many times we look outside of our business and invest in crappy stuff. Like, I've lost a lot of money on bad investments, right? I've made a lot of money when I invested in my business. So that's my mindset. Hey, my best investment is my business. What can I buy in my business? Like we talked about, we're going to redo this, make this a nice little, very nice meeting area. And basically, we talked about the health room, right? The health room. It's going to be a health room.
We haven't with the students yet. So for context, Mike is recording from his basement and he's building out an entire health studio, and it's amazing. He's got the red lights. He's got the frozen water, not frozen water. You get the ice bath.
Ice bath.
Explain to our students here, the gymnasium that you're building right beneath your house here.
Well, I already have the gymnasium's on the first floor.
That's the other.
but the biggest thing is, so I've learned, and here's true. I don't want anyone to think we've had turnover this year that I'm working more this year than I've worked in the last 2 years. So I want to let you know that, but I'm still working out twice a day. I'm still sticking to a strict diet. I'm still doing a lot of stuff because I realize that my most important asset is me. And people are like, Mike, you're not going to live forever. I don't want to live forever. I just don't want to. I have a feeling that modern technology can make me live till I'm 90, whether I want to live or not. So I just want to live. I want, there's lifespan and then there's health span, right? So I want my health span to be very close to my lifespan. Like, Scotty, if you find out I died of a heart attack, 65 in my sleep, I want you to know I was happy if I was healthy. Was Mike healthy? Was he, not to get, was he able to?
You want to die in your sleep, though. That's the best way to die. I would imagine that would be.
It's the things what we don't want. And I had the privilege of taking care of my mom the last 5 years of life. She lived right here. And I saw her health deteriorate. And I saw a lady who was like one of my heroes, not in the best time of her life. And when I spoke at her funeral, that's what I before now and say, hey, this woman was a powerful woman. This was a woman with a lot of energy that I was scared of as a child. She was Italian. I was scared of her. When she told me to do something, I did it, right? Because the thing is, so you always want to remember that your most important asset is yourself. And so in time, when you work out and when you take care of yourself, it pays dividends. It really does. And the newest thing, what I'm trying to do, so I've done 75 Hard and Andy Priscilla's Live Hard program 2 times now. And it consists of 75 days of five challenges, drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages of a book, work out twice a day. Once has to be outside, take a picture, and a strict diet. No alcohol, no chocolate, no cheat meals, right? And really, the hardest thing, no dessert. So any little thing you have to start over. Then he has 3 other 30-day challenges that you do in a 1-year span, and it's called Live Hard. Now, I've done
75 days of no dopamine hits, like the sugar variety.
Now, I'm finding out the ice bath basically has supposedly the same dopamine as cocaine.
Wow.
So
that's why people get addicted to the ice bath.
Yeah, that's why. And I could see it. I've done about 4 in a row now. So what I'm trying to do, though, I've used the 75 Hard as a crutch. So what happens is after my 75 days is up, I usually, party and relax. I stop reading, do everything. And so, I get down, like one of the phases, I got down to 176. A week later, it was 184. Most of it from water and inflammation, right?
Sure. Right.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm developing my own little program, but I'm going to use this. Andy Priscilla say, well, this was not going to count as 75 Hard because I'm going to do everything except I'm not going to work out outside because that's not really hard in South Carolina. Okay. In South Carolina, I've walked over 2 years. I've had to walk once in a thunderstorm. Okay.
Sure.
Did one workout outside that was really difficult. But instead of that, I'm going to do this Breka health routine, which consists of 3 minutes in the cold plunge, 10 minutes on the magnetic mat, 15 minutes on a bike, breathing oxygen.
What's the magnetic mat for our students?
It's called a PEM mat. And what it does, it's sort of, if you were to walk barefooted, you could do it for free. You could go walk barefooted outside. It magnetizes your body. And it's sort of what it does when you're...
It's the benefit you would get by walking outside without shoes on.
Yeah, and it might be amplified because you're doing it through an electric mat. So it's sort of what Gary Breka says is that biohacking is just using technology to amplify what nature does. Okay. So the cold dip, you could do a cold dip in a shower. You can take a cold shower. Or if you live in the northern states, you could do angels in the snow or go outside. Water is like 72 times more effective than air, so it gets you colder quicker. Okay. But the magnetic mat, it supposedly separates your red blood cells. And everything you're trying to do health-wise is you're really trying to reduce inflammation. Inflammation kills everyone. Okay. By separating your red blood cells, then you breathe the oxygen, you get on the bike, and you get your heart rate up. You're trying to get your heart rate as high as possible. If you're not in great shape, you do interval training. If you're in pretty good shape, like I am, you just go as hard as you can on the bicycle, trying to keep your heart rate high. And you breathe in oxygen. And that gets the oxygen deep into your blood cells. And since your red blood cells are separated, more oxygen goes in. And then you do the red light, and I don't know the science behind the red light, but supposedly it's good for you.
I've heard good things. I don't know the science either, but all of these things, as your shirt says, you're all in. You're all in on everything that you're doing, whether it's running your practice or maintaining your health or going to the extremes of extremes. Tell us some more extreme things you've done beyond the 75 hards.
That's about it. I mean,
I don't you're not mountain climbing. You're not doing marathons or triathlons.
I'm not a big. So one thing someone told me once that stuck in my mind and says, hey, you want to train like the people you want to look like when you're naked. Marathon runners, I love them. They're great. I would prefer to look like a sprinter.
Okay. Fair.
I'm not a big cardio guy because one of the things that I've invested a lot of that's helped, and as I said, same thing in my practice. What's helped my practice is always getting a coach, signing up for coaching programs, doing things. I'm a member of Jason's mastermind group. I get a lot out of that. I'm a Pinnacle coach. A lot of people left EOS when it got bought by private equity, and they created a coaching group called Pinnacle.
Yeah, I'm part of it. Or we've been working with Gordon Caudle. You know Gordon?
Oh, yep.
That's who implemented EOS with us. He was
yeah.
EOS.
So, and the reason I went to Pinnacle, I'll be honest with you, and Gordon will probably tell you this, is because I was a coach with Enlightened Business Advisors, and I was one of the better accountant coaches. But when I went to Pinnacle, I mean, they let me in. I'm probably one of the worst coaches of some of the Pinnacle coaches. I mean, some of those guys, they are coaching and they're making $1 million just coaching.
So for our students, we are talking about a other method of EOS. Like you said, it was sort of like a hybrid of some things with EOS.
What EOS now is a very strict process. Like they're going to start you out at this, they're going to do this. And so Pinnacle is a process very similar to EOS. However, it's very flexible. Like, for example, they'll use tools like Profit First. Hey, you got cash flow problems? We got to work on cash flow problems. Here's our Profit First tool. Let's walk you through that, or different tools. So it's very culturally driven. But the Pinnacle coaching community is really some top line coaches. And so you get to really go in there to be running a business and doing some business coaching. I'm getting the best of both worlds. I get to see, I talk to people know how
top
to
of their game.
to the next level.
Yeah.
Some of the things I'm implementing right now everything I'm implementing right now has really come from just hanging around some of those Pinnacle coaches and talking to them.
So the way your mindset is it's elevating you and it's making you a better coach. So you're seeing yourself as the bottom of the rung. I'm sure you're teaching them certain things too. And there's certain aspects that they're learning from you, but you're elevating yourself and you're becoming a better business operator and a better coach by surrounding yourselves with that Pinnacle crew.
Well, that's one of the secrets. If you want to get better in anything, upgrade your peer group. If you want to improve any area in your life, how did I get apps? I hired a personal trainer with apps, right? And so the thing is even though I was doing all these workouts, the personal trainer finally stuck the diet to me, and they made you uncomfortable, right? You should have a budget for being uncomfortable. That's another thing. I have a budget. I talked to so many accountants and business owners. They're like, I can't believe you're going to pay $70 an hour for a trainer. And I'm like, are you kidding me? How much money did you spend on your last vacation? Okay. You'll spend all this money for comfort. That's another thing I steal from Gary Breka. Gary Breka says old age is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. If you want to be younger, you got to aggressively pursue discomfort. And if you look at they say all the life extending things that they do, like fasting is good for you. Well, fasting is very uncomfortable, right? Cold baths is good for you. Cold baths pretty uncomfortable. They feel great when you leave, but they're pretty.
But that's part of the point.
Right. Personal training. If you've got a good personal trainer, they're worth it because they'll push you. Your goal is for them to push you 5 to 6% past your point of comfort. You don't want to get hurt, but you want to be pushed past your point of comfort. And anything you do, I do believe, to get better, you got to make yourself uncomfortable. Let's just take your faith. If you want to be a better Christian, one of the best books I've ever read, though, I'm going to tell you, this is a good book for anyone to read, whether you're a Christian or not.
The Bible?
Is not well, yeah, the Bible.
I'm joking.
Of course. That's good. But this is a good interpretation of the Bible. It's called Unoffendable. Unoffendable. And it talks to you about, it's great for dealing with people, dealing with clients. Because, we get mad at our clients, they don't want to pay us, and we don't want to. But unoffendable is really not judging people. You don't go into judgment. You cannot be angry at someone unless you're judging them. Think about it. Last time you're angry in your life. I'm angry because what? So,
anger is a judgment. Having that feeling is a judgment toward the other person that you're angry at, and it's usually pointing the finger at yourself.
Right.
We've talked about that in management styles or in any aspect of life. If you go back and look at it a little bit closer, a little bit harder, why'd you get mad at them? You probably got mad at them for something that you're upset with about yourself.
Right. So the biggest thing, I think that's a great book because let's just gear back to health. There's 4 cornerstones of health, according to Peter Attia. The first one is diet. The second one is exercise. The third one is sleep. The fourth one is emotional health. Now, over the years, Scotty, science has sort of deviated between, like Peter Attia in his book, Outlive, he says, hey, I used to think that diet was the most important. I really come to believe exercise is the most important. There's people who are now, there's a guy who's spending $2 million a year, I forget his name, trying to live longer, but he believes sleep is the most important. I actually firmly believe, because I was listening to the interviews of all these guys over 100, and they were drinking whiskey and eating whatever they want. And I think it's emotional health. The biggest thing that prevents people in emotional health from being healthy is, in my opinion, the inability to forgive people. Whether you're a Christian or not, the inability to forget and move on. And I see it all the time with people. I mean, I was at a baseball game one time. I should have been a little stronger and brought this up to a guy. But he was still angry about his kid being screwed over. Our kids were 17 when the kid was 8 years old. And I was just listening to him, and you can see he was getting, and I was like, that can't be good for him. Well, then I started talking to him again, and I found out he's on high blood pressure medicine, all these things. He's got all these health problems, and he's a thin dude. He's thinner than you. And I want, again, one of my weaknesses is I tend to want people to like me. So I don't like to tell people the truth when it hurts their feelings. I should have said, hey, brother, I'm going to tell you, I just observed something. You're not forgiving these people over something that happened 9 years ago. And that lack of forgiveness, I think, is causing your health problems. I really do.
You're afraid he's not going to like you. He's going to get mad at you for giving him that honesty.
You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the biggest thing. One of the reasons, if you'd be honest, Mike, why did you join the Marine Corps 75 hard and stuff? I'm trying to develop some mental toughness to actually tell people the truth in tough situations. I'm getting better at it, much better in my consulting business, much better in business. But the truth of the matter is, I think, like you said, and I do believe 75 hard has helped, because I've had probably more difficult conversations in the last 2 years than I've had in the previous 20 years.
Well, you're building up that resilience. I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything. Coach Melinger here, man. This has been incredible. Thank you for all of the valuable information, lessons, and wisdom you've been sharing with our students today. Students, you heard it here first from the M&M, the GOAT, Mike Melinger. Thanks, homie.
Thank you. I appreciate the compliments. You have a great day, Scotty. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks,
Appreciate
man.
it. You look
Peace
forward
out.
to seeing you at some other conferences too. Thanks.
Oh, show. Class dismissed.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.